Hello, my name is Jorb. I love gear. Today we're talking about the Deepmind 12, but really we're talking about Tame Impala's track Nangs and the synth sound therein. A very friendly commenter by the name of Yaya Wee Weets, I think is the name, asked if I could do the Nangs synth sound, and I said, you know what, I can. I really like that sound. It's pretty easy to understand just by listening to it, what it is you're hearing, and then once you're in there, you can tweak and get closer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with an initialized patch on the Deepmind 12, run through all the steps it took me to get to this, something similar. You can follow along with the Deepmind or anything else if you have a synth with comparable features. Take any parts you do and don't want, etc., etc. I don't know the chords exactly. This is as close as I was going to get. Sorry, I'm not trying to. And I'm not saying that this sound is identical. I'm saying most of the ideas are there, and you can tweak within your boundaries to find whatever it is you want. Okay, let's begin, right? So the first thing we want to do, hold program. We'll get some more options that show up. Press compare. That'll give us a default program. And the first thing I notice, we have two waveforms on. Let's get that just a sawtooth, a little simpler. And then if we zoom in here on our VCA and our VCF envelopes, we can see they've both got a bit of a shape. I like to start with just sustain on both of them. Easier for me to understand. And if you don't know the trick, if you press both keys, you can edit both shapes at the same time. So just sustain. And I also notice I have velocity sensitivity on here in the VCF menu and here in the VCA menu. And I like to turn that off right away, okay? So the first thing you probably will notice in this song, and it's what we'll spend most of our time on, would be the LFO on the filter. So we're just going to start with that. To start, get our LFO down about halfway. You know what? Let me zero out the rest of these things. So what you see makes sense. There we go. Okay. All right. So here we are. Filter's closed. Everything else is as straightforward as can be. I'm going to introduce Lfo Modulation. And by default, it's pointed to LFO 2, which is fine. And you'll notice that doesn't sound quite the way we want it to. You can hear multiple, right? So polyphase is the default for the LFOs. Let's change it to mono. Let's listen poly first. Individual notes have different values for their cutoff, right? Make it mono. Okay, and we want mono, not necessarily because it's likely that Kevin Parker was using a Juno 106, which only has one LFO, just because that's what sounds right to us, okay? How fast? This is honestly kind of close. I'm not going to try and line it up exactly. And the first thing I notice is the shape shouldn't be a triangle. So if you listen to the track, it sounds to me like it's a sawtooth shape. And so here in the edit menu for LFO 2, as I click through these, goes down, ramping up, I suppose. Okay. Close, and while this is when I first start to hear it, I want a little bit of release on both of our envelopes. So we can hear it after we let go, and I notice it fades in a little bit when the keys are hit, so that's a little bit of attack on both. because we can assume it's the Juno, which, again, I'm not saying we necessarily know that, but it's pretty likely. We're going to try chorus. I can never remember where it's at. There it is. And I like to, so to talk about the difference here, send, you have your dry signal, your analog signal, going all the way through. That gets split off into what goes through the effects section, and then they get mixed together at the end. Okay, in that case, your chorus mix at 100% is all vibrato, but that gets mixed with your dry signal. So you have true chorus in the end. I prefer to do insert and then change the chorus mix to 50%. And so your dry signal goes into the effects section, and then the effects section goes to your output. Your dry signal doesn't continue all the way through because you don't get any phasing issues that way. So let's listen to the difference. That was insert and 50%. So theoretically, send and 100 should be the same. It's not super clear with just the chorus, but I'm going to go back to where I was. Okay. I have, in my handy-dandy notebook, the settings for the Juno chorus from my Juno patches, which I painstakingly copied onto the Deepmind. If you're interested in that, the video is linked below. I'm going to line up these settings with what I had set when I found what, to my ears, sounded a lot like the Juno 106. Okay. Maybe, again, thinking Juno, a little bit of the sub-oscillator. Just barely any. Let's try the boost. Yeah, playing in this in the middle octave. That sounds pretty good to me. Okay, another thing I notice, a little bit of keyboard contribution to the filter. Maybe it just sounds better to me. What that does, the higher up on the keyboard, the more open your cutoff is going to be, because more of your high notes will just be entirely contained, or most of the frequencies from them will be higher anyway. And so if you raise the cutoff in relation to that, you can get a more equivalent volume or equivalent presence. How about that? Across the spectrum and across your keypad. Okay, that's most of the sound. You could stop there easily. I notice a few other small things. I think there's a second LFO, or at least just some inaccuracy of the pitch. And there's a few ways you can do that. I like to do it just a slow, even LFO. And so what I'm going to do, pitch mod source, we're going to check for oscillator 1 is LFO 1, which is good. And so I'm going to introduce a little bit. I'm going to turn off our LFO contribution to the filter so I can listen to it. Okay, and I want this to be really subtle. I want it to be pretty slow, and I want it to be really subtle, right? And so a good trick to do that, if you move a fader you want to have focus on, move the fader you want to have focus on, and then click the wheel here to make it really, really subtle. Okay, and since I don't want that necessarily to be cyclical, maybe I'll try sample and glide, which is a smooth collection of random values. Pretty subtle, don't mind it, but there is another way to do that. So I turned this pitch mod all the way down to 0, and if we go into oscillator drift, change that to about 20 and the drift rate to about 20. I'm going to make it really dramatic so you can hear it. little less, just more wavering, just more inaccuracy. Cool. And then back to our LFO. One thing I notice early on in the track, there seems to be a bigger difference between the bottom and the top in the range of our LFO than what's available to us on the Deepmind. And lucky for us, the mod matrix gives us some tricks to account for that. So here in the mod matrix, if you hold mod and press source, you can do that, or if you'd rather just click through. But I want to use LFO2 to do what it's already doing. We're just going to add it again in the second place. Okay, so LFO2 is going to go to the same place it's already affecting, our cutoff frequency. So here, if I bring this all the way down, and I start bringing this up, it's doing that same thing. Bring this back down to 0. And bring that up. Okay, but that even just on its own, without adding them together, is more. So think of whatever value is here, we're doubling it. We're adding it together twice to affect our cutoff. And then when we change our envelope contribution and just our cutoff on its core, we're raising that whole range when we move these up. And you can hear, if you listen to the track, that those change over time. The LFO contribution and the midpoint. And so one thing I like to do, I'm going to zero this back out, is put the mod wheel in a place where it has the job of increasing and decreasing our LFO2 amount, okay? And so mod wheel is affecting positively. We want it to affect this first modulation row. So if we move data entry all the way to the top, then scroll back, we can do mod 1 depth. And so let me zero this out and bring that up so you can hear it. As I introduce the mod wheel, it's going to positively affect our first row, which is LFO2 going to the VCF frequency. The sub oscillator sounds right now with some more components in place. And we can back off on the mod wheel here. I don't know, but if you ask me, that's pretty good. I'm going to add some reverb near the end. You could use any of these. I like the ambient verb, and I like to take the mix down. Let's make it about 25. Maybe 22. And then I come in here and I turn down the high cut. Cool. I already want a little bit more of our oscillator drift. That was too much, so I'll leave it just the oscillator drift. Backing off, fine-tuning on the mod wheel here. that is about as much as I want to say. And so with any patch, when we're done, we save it. And so I'm going to save this as a name that's relevant to everybody here. There you go. A name that's relevant to everybody watching right now. There you go. That's my sit down, one take. What was this, 20 minutes? I'm going to cut it down so it's nice and easy to digest. Nang's Copycat patch. Any parts you do and don't want to include in your iteration of this patch, feel free. I'm not saying you need to do this exactly like me. My name's Jorb. I love gear. I love the Deepmind. I love Tame Impala. And I forgot to say it while I was recording. If you have another idea, hey, put that in the comments. Here's proof that I do them. Okay. I will see you in the next one. I'm just going to leave this on for the rest of the day. Pulsing around me. Blasting. Beeping. So long! I'll see you in the next one!